there's the fear, right? When you're doing something you've never done before, where I'm even like, can I do this? Can I pull this off? Constantly working on silencing that and being like, no, this is the opportunity for me to step into and really trust myself.
What I've noticed that really works is if I can share in a way that people can come with me.
And so maybe don't go to that route of the superficial so that maybe they see how deep you are. Be deep because that's who you are. Well, hello, Katie. Hello, Naz.
Ooh. Hello, Sophie.
Hello.
Yes.
This is so incredibly fun. So Naz and I are dear friends. We have deep conversations, and in one of them, we were having this like very alive, like this and that and why, and some of the things that Naz was saying, I was literally sitting there going like, what would Katie say? What would Katie say? And then I said, let's bring her in and let's have Katie say. So we don't have to make it up. So Naz, come on in, tell us.
Welcome to this episode of Katie Says. I love it. Okay.
Oh, so tell us a little bit, what was I mean, if there's something new that's more present, anything, just take us to where you felt like a little light, a little help would be helpful.
Totally. I'm just going to give a little context. So for whoever's listening, they kind of know where I am in space and time. So I'm a TV host, interviewer, film critic, have been in the entertainment industry for 12 years, doing correspondence on the Today Show and working for Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes and and doing a lot of red carpet stuff for the Oscars. And essentially that was a dream job of mine and I achieved it. And then last summer, my contract didn't get renewed. And it was this beautiful thing of the universe giving me what I actually want, which has always been my own show and the ability to ask whatever I want. And the desire, this like really intense desire I have to bring consciousness to pop culture and the entertainment world, which is what I would do through my interviews in the way that Oprah's always done that so well. And I've always been very confounded with the fact that like there isn't an Oprah for my generation, and yet there's so many people going inward and doing spiritual work and all these things. And so the conversation that led Sophie and I to coming to Katie Says was that even though I had lost my job, I was, whether it's out of fear or scarcity or just because it's all I knew, I spent a lot of last year trying to fit back into this old traditional media world so that I can make money or so that I could just do what I love, which is interviewing. So I'm a part of this organization that's very prestigious for film critics. And I found that even though I'd lost my job, I was trying to moderate and do interviews through them. But then all these limits kept coming up that I was too new or too young, and people that were more experienced than I weren't sort of letting go of these opportunities. And so what Sophie really made me realize is that I would go to these events and I would go in high vibration trying to be like, I don't need anything. I have everything I need. And then I would show up and I would leave so upset, so in low vibration, angry. Sophie used the word entitled, which was interesting for me to hear. My name had never been with that word in the same sentence, but it was almost this like, why am I being passed up? I have done all this work. I did everything right. And then interestingly enough, it came up in the romantic area of my life too, where I had a crush on someone and, just sort of constantly feeling passed up. Like if I feel like I'm the full package, what am I missing here? And so that's where Sophie and I ended. And then of course, as the universe does, yesterday, so many upper limits came up. So I'm feeling a little tender where I was like, wow, this is so perfectly timed where through this sort of perceived contrast and like bad things happening, I did get an agreement to shoot a pilot for my own show with someone who's very lauded in the entertainment industry, like an A-list celebrity, and it would be produced under their company. And I'm so excited because now I'm following my intuition. I finally can bring in all this consciousness and all these things to everything I want. And it seemingly felt like we were on the same page. And then I came up against this rub that I constantly have, which is it feels like the entertainment industry doesn't want this. And me and the head person at this company have very different ideas of the type of show we want to make. And I want to make something that's deep and that's full of substance and that feels regenerative and that the audience is leaving having learned something. And I think they more so want to create something that maybe exposes the person that we're interviewing, which feels like icky energy to me. And so now we're taking a week for him to take a crack at it and come back to me with how he sort of sees it. But the upper limits that came up last night was crying, was this one thing that I that I really want. Maybe it's like not possible. Am I ever going to be in a space where I get to like do whatever I want? And the fear of it, like essentially going away altogether, and ultimately knowing that I'll be fine and I'm like on this journey. But it seems as though my biggest thing is that when externally things are going great, it's very easy, of course, for me to feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world. Everything's unfolding the way it's supposed to. And then when a meeting like this happens where there's like a discrepancy or I feel extremely discouraged, I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. And all these fears came up that I know can't be a part of my new reality. So it's good that they came up. But it was just everything came rushing up yesterday of like, oh my God, what is holding me back and why? Yeah, just curious about all your thoughts on all of it.
So just that. And so
All right, there you go, Katie. Fix it.
yeah, everything's fine.
Over to you.
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple of things that I want to just toss back as we're venturing into this. One is that whenever I get myself caught in an either or, and it sounds like either they get to be right or you get to be right, that's being run by a persona of mine, and so I got curious about where you learned to see yourself as your value is coming from out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that would be one, whether we explore that or not, I think that would be one really valuable avenue for you, because if you're not feeling in charge of your own creativity, you're probably working out of an old script that you learned that you're not yet fully aware of. And one of the ways that I enter into that is what aspect of me is trying to get attention. And what I'm hearing from you is I want people to recognize I have things of value. I have things of value to say too, not just reacting to what they want me to do. I want to initiate things. And so I would look at your family structure, your siblings, competition, are there any competitive kinds of patterns that you learned growing up? Like I had my older brother number one and me being number two. And, that dynamic played out not only in my youth, but also in my relationship with Gay at the very beginning. And so my sense is that the overall question, and this is for our listeners also, is how is this familiar?
Right.
So how is this, the dynamic that's happened over the last couple of days, how is that familiar to you?
The first thing that pops up in my head is how I felt at my last job. And so I noticed that one of the things that I came forth saying with how I would like to approach this new project is I would love full autonomy on what I'm able to ask, because I felt really repressed, not being able to do that at my last job. And then their response was, well, are you not going to show the team, what you're going to ask? And I remember feeling yesterday a lot of PTSD of like, well, what if there's this thing that I intuitively know I really want to ask, but they axe it, you know? And so where is the line of me? Um, I actually wrote it down to ask you because I wanted to is it correctly. What's the line between being open and following your intuition?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so that's where he immediately felt it. And then if you need in childhood, I don't know, I had perfectionism complex. I was the firstborn. My brother has disabilities. I come from immigrant parents, that had extremely high standards of me.
yeah.
And I came from a lot of scarcity and I knew that I knew that that wasn't meant for me. And so also hustle culture, being a millennial, I had to work for everything. I believed being a first generation person and being someone born in 1990 that you have to work really hard to get things. And I've had to let go of that belief and maybe there's still a little bit in there, but that's all I can think of right now from the top of my
Well,
head.
well, I think that's sufficient. I mean, that'll that'll work to begin with. um, so what I'm hearing as you're speaking is a control struggle. Like I want to be able to do what I want to be able to do, and they keep controlling me, not letting me do what I want to do.
Uh,
And so, if you were to take charge of that, how are you requiring people to control you?
I requiring. Can you ask that in a different way? Oh my
Let me
God.
see if I can. So, what is it in you that is requiring people to try to limit your autonomy or not support your vision?
So I don't, that's tough for me to answer from my vantage point because I live in my body. And I know that in my experience now, having looked back at my life, I feel like I am a change agent and I am very triggering because I am a big energy
Mm-hmm.
to some people, but that's again putting it on them. So I don't know. I can't answer it for myself, if that makes sense. I just am aware that that's always been a thing when I come
Yes.
to a space.
So the other thing that's just occurring to me, just in terms of how you like to create in the world, is it sounds like there's an acceleration from like 0 to 60. You want to be able, you have a vision and you can see it,
Right.
and and you can see how it's going to happen. But there are other people along the way who don't are maybe not visionaries or intuitive, and they need the step by step. Well, because I think what's underlying all of this is fear. And I invite you to look at when you get scared. How do you get scared? Do you flee? Do you freeze? Do
I
you
control things.
try to So it sounds like maybe you get more fighty.
I just try and control circumstances.
Yeah.
No, when I'm in fear, I feel like a lot of anxiety and I actually get more not fighty. I get
Oh,
more
so
victim mode.
okay. So do you go
Yeah.
more fainty? Like kind
I
of
get
lose.
yeah, I feel like I get more scared. Like I'm anxiety and inside out too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I start projecting all these fears, which is what I did yesterday, and I get really scared and I get
Yeah.
a little paralyzed, and then I'll try and do what I can to control and mitigate the worst case scenario that I've made up in my head.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of that you're doing inside you.
Right.
And are other people aware that this is going on for you?
I don't think most people know like no. I don't think most people on the outside know what I deal with internally.
Well, one thing that's been incredibly liberating for me and for people that I've worked with is to be transparent about my own anxiety.
Yeah.
So that I'm really excited to share this new vision with you, and I also am feeling some anxiety about how we're going to get there, or whether you all are going to like it. About the step by step, so that you're. I think if you're sharing your experience, it allows people to join you in the journey.
Yeah. I love that. How do you do that while also there's also this story, right, of I am a young woman in my 30s. Most people making decisions are older men than I am. And so, and this is my idea, right? And I've never done this before. So, like Brene Brown calls them FFTs, like effing first times.
Hmm.
There's the fear, right? When you're doing something you've never done before, where I'm even like, can I do this? Can I pull this off? But then obviously constantly working on silencing that and being like, no, this is the opportunity for me to step into and really trust myself. So then I came forward, trusting myself, saying, this is my vision. Here I am. I finally made it. I believe in me, to be met with like, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't know. And now I'm feeling like they don't trust me, and it's almost like I need their trust in order to do this. So,
Yes. And what I
yeah,
found is that trust uh, comes in part from transparency, from knowing what's going on with you.
yeah,
And I'm hearing the either or. I either have to be just totally confident so that there's no possibility that anybody's going to shoot me down here,
right,
because I just am still carrying the vision. But it
right,
also makes you isolated from other people being able to support you.
right,
So what the main thing that I'm hearing is, how might you over the next period of time create a what we call a both and. So I have this incredible vision that I'd love to share with you, and I have some anxiety about how we're going to do this, and how everybody's going to fit in. Or you're sharing some of your actual inner life, so they don't have to make it up. Because I found that in the absence of information, people make stuff up.
right,
So if they're not getting enough information from you, they're going to make up stuff from their own fear base,
right,
which is, be about scarcity and who gets to be in control. Uh, and so my sense is that one first step for you to be giving attention to people who are in the meeting,
mhm,
and also listening to how they are hearing you.
mhm,
So, like, how is this landing for you? I realized when I got to this second step that I felt a little unease about whether we go this direction or that direction. What do you think about that? So that you're including them, because it almost seems like you got to be the driver,
right,
or somebody's going to push you out of the seat or wreck the car, or that, and that control struggle is, I think, going to just generate more scarcity for everybody in the group.
right, right. I love that. Thank you, Katie. I think now that I'm sort of in this space of waiting for this person to come back to me with their vision,
Hmm.
I think I'm living with this fear of like that we're just not aligned and that it's completely different and that we're not going to be able to find a middle ground. Because my first principle was I wanted to make sure whoever I interview feels extremely safe. And they're more interested in what the world looks like that we're building, and the interview is sort of secondary, which in my head is good. It's good that this is your main concern and this is my main concern. Feels like that's a good thing. But now I just have this fear of like, well, what if it's just completely not aligned with what you know, and then the
Yes. And
scarcity of like,
that's always a question, but where I get a sense of, are we aligned? And for me, that's resonance.
right,
Is if I'm not feeling that we're aligned, I want to give more information
mm,
what I'm experiencing. That
got
would include my body sensations, my vision,
right,
what might be familiar, how I'd like to include the other person. So, my sense is that the your old experience, the fear has taken you into which sounds familiar to me. It's sort of like, I got to do this myself, and other people got to come to join me.
right,
And so, in order to have a partnership, it's like the two of you need to be pointed in the same direction,
right,
and also have some knowledge about each other's rhythms, each other, like, you like to consider things a lot and then talk about it? Or do you like to have a ding, 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 just bouncing things back and forth and kind of talking it out, what your styles are? So I was also thinking, it just occurred to me, what if you went on a walk with the person that, the person you might be working with,
Yeah.
so that you're talking while you're moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. I think the fires in LA make it hard because they're not in the state right now, but that's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, to get so that you're not just, doing head to head, that you're letting
Right.
you're letting your bodies participate with each other, or you
Yeah.
have you choose some music that you both like, and you have some music going on in the background, so that you have some sense of a structure, an energetic structure that you can both create together.
I like that better because, yeah, I've noticed that the energy shifted since we've been on Zoom. And when we're in person, we felt really aligned. But
Yes.
it feels like something shifted, Sophie, after I sent over that deck. It was almost like I think they took it as like, oh, this is what we're doing, even though I had stated this is something for you to respond to that we can discuss. And I think in my passion and expression of how excited I am about this idea and how it's kind of really different from what they want, I think it didn't land in the way I thought it was going to land and be like, yeah. And it was the complete opposite of that's
Mhm.
not what I'm concerned by. And so it made me feel like deflated and really discouraged.
Yeah.
The,
So
the, yeah, thank you. The other thing that I was thinking while you two were talking is the other person is also dealing with, am I doing the right thing? Am I investing in the right person? Is this idea the right idea? Are we doing a show that's going to make me look good? Because he's also
right.
the one that's choosing to,
Right.
he's one of the pillars, that has to approve this thing.
Right.
And I'm wondering if there's not been enough, because you are such a visionary and a pioneer, like you wanting to bring depth to a world that right now has never been so shallow. And so obviously there is a little bit of a gap, but that is what's interesting. I wonder if there's more to be shared, that it is like, it's almost like if we keep doing what we've been doing, at some point it's going to have to take a different turn. And I wonder if you've not communicated enough that you are the new turn, that depth is what people are craving, and
Yeah.
at it with such humor could be a really beautiful bridge. And I don't know that he sees that.
Yeah, I don't know either because we haven't worked together and I don't know if that's what they're interested in. And I'm really interested in building something that feels new, that is a hole that I want to fill. But I did sleep last night and think I don't know what I'm doing. And I am a very open person and I really want to be collaborative. And maybe if we take what they know that is working, that maybe isn't my favorite, and maybe me just showing up in that world as me, having a little more autonomy than I did before, whether it turns into the thing I want, it would be an experience that I think would help them learn who I am and me, kind of see if I can even be in that world anymore. And I'm hopeful. How do I remain hopeful that like maybe we can find a middle ground and not stay in fear and scarcity? Because what's happening under all this, Katie, is that I haven't worked since June.
Mm.
So I've been very conscious to not put the pressure of my financial situation on this project. I'm like
But
getting so emotional.
yeah,
Uh,
but you're feeling that.
right.
Yeah. And see, the other thing I'm getting is that I want to invite you into total transparency. So, like, I call it blurting, being unedited. And I was also having the thought that if you take something that they're working with, and you give a couple of possible steps that would take it in a new direction.
Mhm.
So rather than jumping the mountain, you give them the first, the first place where they could camp. They could do some exploration and then camp and then do some exploration.
Yeah.
So, it's a sense of how do we take those first steps into the unknown.
Right.
And my sense is, when you're transparent, that it moves you and it moves them from fear into presence and the possibility, oh, new energy here. Like if you're saying, you're sharing with us about what you're scared about and what you would like to do. I'm just thinking that maybe they see you as a package that they can't open. And if you show them some ways that you could open you, and I was just thinking of back a long time ago, may have been before the 90s, Coke tried to create a brand new, they wanted to do something brand new. It was some new thing that and they tried it out and it absolutely failed. And it was a great thing, but nobody wanted it. And what they came up with was their slogan was new and improved. And you think, well, that's just so simple. That's hardly, how is that a change? But what it is really new, and you're sort of turning in one and taking a few steps in a new direction. So people feel safe, like we're not just going off into something that nobody's ever done before and it could fail and we could all fail. But
Right.
we're going to take this, everybody knows this structure, and we're
Right.
going to tweak it. And
Yeah.
then we're going to tweak it, and then we're going to tweak it. And pretty soon we've totally tweaked it, that people have come on the journey with us.
That was really helpful to hear because what I am repulsed by is the current structure. So I was like, completely new mountain, completely new frontier. And hearing you reflect all this back to me, I can see how that would make someone, and you too, Sophie, like in his position, scary. And if I can just slow down and be willing to sort of make something that's maybe just a teeny bit different, and maybe the tiny difference is just my involvement in it, and it's still a structure that maybe isn't my favorite, but that people think works. I can do that. It really bums me out.
Right.
It's just like if I had the money to just like do it on my own, it's just, yeah, it's tough.
This, believe me, I resonate with this. Doing, and also being, also being in your 30s and having something to share with the world, but people are going, who are you? And, who do you think you are? We've paid our
Yeah.
dues. Have you paid your dues? All of that kind of stuff. So for you, how can you support your magnificence? I mean, what are some daily steps that you could take that, like, yeah, this is recommitting to your own passion, recommitting to your own, I can do this, and I can adjust, like wearing in, I have several different closets to wear clothes that are going to allow me to bridge whoever I'm with. So, I had my suits that I wear to corporate meetings, and then I have, so it's how can you present yourself that really supports your magnificence and also lets other people get to know you.
Yeah, I love that. I think something else just popped up that's really fascinating that came up on the call is when I shared my vision, I shared how I see this being bigger than like Joe Rogan's podcast. And how that landed. And I thought that that would be such a great thing to hear from someone you're investing in, right? And how it landed for them was, oh, no, 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 we're making something much smaller than that. And that felt really like, how can I be more of a horse whisperer instead of a horse trainer?
Right.
And galvanize people who maybe aren't doing inner work or spiritual work, and who, like, it's almost like I was like, oh my God, can I build my dream with someone that has such a small dream for me?
Well,
you
that's
know?
in fact what you're up to. And that's the culture you're speaking into.
Yeah.
So this is your test case. So the culture has gotten much more shallow, much more horizontal, much more bounce off, much more, if you approve of me, if you like me, I'm okay. If you don't, I don't.
Right.
And so I think in each one of your interactions, by you letting yourself go deep and come from deep,
Yeah.
that you're sharing, um, it's like you got a balloon that hasn't been blown up yet, and people don't know what the shape of it is. And, so it just looks like this sort of limp thing. But as you're giving a voice to it and energy to it, it begins to take shape, and other people can experience you as you're doing that.
Yeah, and so it's more just about this is really a practice of me embodying, and ultimately this all happened so that I could do the work to break through all these fears anyway that
Yeah, exactly. And my sense is, because I've been at this for decades. So what I've noticed that really works is if I can share in a way that people can come with me.
Mhm.
Because everybody's experienced like the anxiety of the unknown, and we don't know if this is going to work or not.
Mhm.
And so for you to voice that and to share what you do when you're experiencing that, like what do you do inside when you're experiencing that, then that both educates other people and allows you to open a space for other people to contribute to you rather than having to get in line and follow you.
Right. I love that. Can I hear just one more? I want to dive into the prompt you gave me about the competitiveness and why what was the question? Why I require something outside me to control me, I think it
Yeah,
was.
it was something like that. I don't remember exactly what I
Yeah.
said. I was working through it
How
yourself.
do I get to the root and core of that when I can't really see it for myself right now?
Well, I think what I found is I just need to look at the result. So the result that you created with this last interaction, what I would do is go, hmm, what was I? How was I contributing to that?
Right.
And what might I do differently? And it could be something very simple, like you just move your body, or you take a breath, or you say, "Oh gosh," when you said that, I just went "Ugh," and stop breathing altogether. So you're letting your presence be. My sense is your presence is still a little bit back in there. You bring it out, but then you tuck it back in. And I'd like to see you just be out to your edges, that you're occupying your space fully in all of your interactions and letting that, like, for example, right here, how could you occupy this space in your chest more fully right now?
Yeah. So
Yeah, and
just
just go
like
ahead and play
posture,
with that.
right?
Well, it's actually your experience of you. And it may come through your posture. You don't have to focus on, oh my God, I'm slumping. But it's really, am I fully out to the edges of me?
Yeah.
And you could say, oh, I'm considering that a little bit, and I can feel myself getting a little bit smaller. I want to just presence myself again. So you're kind of describing to people what you're doing, which is what they would then be assisting you to do on your show.
Yeah. I guess it's really hard for me to show up as fully me because I'm somewhat of a people pleaser and I'm scared it's going to trigger people. And then I manifested the experience yesterday where that exactly happened, where I
And
didn't
there
feel
you
like I
go.
was
That's a
doing
great example right there, what you're saying, that, oh, here's what happened. Here's what I did. Because that's exactly what you would be working on with somebody on your show.
anything.
As we are wrapping up, I did have a question or kind of a comment as well, Naz. It strikes me that it's almost like you're not gonna bring you to this thing, but you will be there. You'll be the one doing the interview with your authenticity. Maybe they'll say, "Don't ask that question." Well, you'll find a way to do it differently. Like I know you to be, the door's closed. Let me just walk in through the window. It's like let's trust that in that moment where you'll be with that person, that person won't be with you controlling. You'll be you. And
Yeah.
and that is the one thing that we commented together often. There is a little bit of the two yous. It's like there's the you that thinks you need to act a certain way to get this certain thing on the red carpet thing when you're such a deep person. And so maybe don't go to that route of the superficial so that maybe they see how deep you are. Be deep because that's who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, Katie, like that.
Yes. And in fact, I think that's your superpower, is
Yes.
to be fully authentic, because that's what's surprising. People don't know what you're going to do. They might have a reaction, but that's great because you're disrupting. And so to really claim yourself as a disruptor, and really occupying that, on a daily basis and giving yourself approval
Yeah.
for your depth rather than having to apologize. There's a little bit of I can hear it in your tone. There's a little bit of apology.
Yeah.
And so people will pick up on that, like, oh, is she, well, if she's not confident, how can we be confident?
Right. So what the last question I have is, I guess I'm going up against a societal norm of like, if I show that if I were to call him right now and say thank you so much, everything you said landed within me. I have a lot to sit on and meditate with. I think we can find a middle ground. I'm excited to see what you come back with. I was feeling anxiety because of my last job, and I can be way more open here. It's almost like that feels natural to me, but then it's like in Hollywood especially, women are taught to not necessarily show their cards in that way. And that, is he going to think I'm insecure and that I actually can't do this and pull this off?
Yeah. So what that is, Naz, is a flee up. That's a fear response. You fleed up into old stories and and things that are familiar. And in that moment, I want to invite you to come back into what I call your muchness. So how can you right now come back into your full body muchness and and just appreciate you for a moment? So you're coming from fear back into presence in your own body.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being so open to exploring. I know that people are going to resonate with this issue on many, many different levels.
If nothing else, you have me and Katie watching your show like every time.
Right, and telling people about it too.
I love you both. Thank you so much for being here, both of you.
Thank
I love
you.
you guys for having me. I have a lot to meditate on. So thank you so much for this. You're the best.